This is Automated Thought.
Hey, everyone. So I'm not sure if you listened to our first little podcast, but me and my friend Midraspore here,
Hello.
we decided we'd just do it again. Why? Because we're fucking around on vacation and having
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And we just got back from seeing Wonder Woman. I've seen it all. This was my second time seeing it, but it was Midraspore's first time losing his Wonder Woman virginity. What did you think of the movie, man?
It was quite a satisfying de-virginification. Yes, enjoyed it. It's solid. I mean, it's not flawless, but it's solid, and it's certainly much stronger than any of the recent DC movies that I've seen. Full disclosure, I'm not a big comic book movie guy. I've seen most of them. Like most of the big ones, of course, I've seen all the Iron Man and all the Avengers and all the Thors and all the Batman movies, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But as far as like reading the comics, no. And yes, I've seen all of the X-Men films as well, but I've never read any of these comics, so I just come at it from that perspective. I have no investment in it, like from my childhood of growing up reading the comics. It's just didn't ever do that. But it was good. Cinematography was quite nice. The acting was good. Of course, the star, she was excellent, and she looks exactly perfect for the role. Not too much to complain about here compared to a lot of other big budget action films that come out these days. But I think what would be more interesting than hearing someone just ramble about, yeah, I like that movie. Chronorin, tell us all like a couple things that you didn't like about Wonder Woman.
Well, just like with most blockbusters, there's always one thing I want to change. And the one thing in Wonder Woman that rubbed me the wrong way was the character of General Ludendorff, the German general. I really wish that he hadn't been this drug-snorting, violent maniac who grabs a gun and kills one of his soldiers.
Oh, yeah,
with no recrimination. Like even in the German army, if you just shot some poor soldier for no reason, they'd be like, "Wait a minute, stop! File reports, investigate this."
Yeah. What did that guy do that was so worthy of execution?
He said, "Sir, the men need food and sleep. That's just
you're weak. Die." What?
Yeah, that's more. That was like my least favorite moment. That and
but nobody reacts to it. No one's like, "Holy shit, you just murdered that guy in cold blood for no reason."
Yeah, this isn't the Death Star. He's not Darth Vader. Like, there's a chain of command here.
I thought that was kind of a lazy way to establish, this is a real bad guy. It's just
that, and as we were the drugs, the way Dr. Poison, who I like Dr. Poison, she is cute even with the scar. I mean, the mask, it's cute. I like it. It's sexy.
Mm-hmm.
But she comes up with, just out of nowhere, by the way, I made you this like super aerosol meth that will turn you into this elderly fighting dynamo who can go toe to toe with a Greek goddess for at least like 5 minutes. I thought that was unnecessary. I wish that General Ludendorff had been kind of like a more remote figure, mostly giving speeches, and maybe Diana could finally confront him, and maybe he would collapse and turn into a sniveling coward, and she would say, "You are not Ares," or something.
Mm-hmm.
And because you didn't need a fight with him, because then you had the fight with the real Ares. I mean, it was just a little bit of overkill. But yeah, that's my
spoilers,
one complaint.
By the way, if you haven't seen Wonder Woman, spoilers.
Oh yeah, spoilers.
Maybe we should go back and
no. Everyone's seen it already.
Everyone's already seen it. Okay.
Everyone, yeah. Like this movie, like made so much money. Like statistically, everyone has seen it already.
Anybody that gives a shit about these kinds of movies has seen it. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the whole drug sniffing shit on the drive home from the theater. I feel like that it's kind of a cliche, the the villain. There's so many movies, it seems like, where there's this villain that gets powered up by some chemical, whether it's injected in or pumped in or sniffed or whatever. And then all of a sudden they become superhuman. If you actually, if this chemist woman actually developed that, and there didn't seem to be, when I was watching this, I was assuming there was going to be a scene later in the movie where we witnessed the horrible side effects of using this drug, where he has some, scene where he's melting and like his flesh is starting to fall off. He tries to sniff more of it, but it's not working. And there's like blue blood starting to pour out of his eyes or something. No, there's no consequences. There's no hangover or anything. Apparently, it's just this perfectly amazing superhuman drug thing.
What a great product. Why didn't they give it to the rest of the German army? I mean, the guy Ludendorff was just sniffing it, for days on end, and he could still stay composed and go to a fancy gala.
Yeah, he was fine. He didn't seem to be suffering any ill effects from it whatsoever. So yeah, we were like, okay, just let's halt all this, bombing with this deadly gas shit. Let's develop this superhuman drug and mass produce it and give it to all our soldiers. And then before they charge into no man's land, each one of them cracks one of those things and sniffs it, and they would just completely overwhelm the enemy. But no, it was just this little treat that she made for her man.
Yeah, and
strange.
So we're sitting here bitching about, this like minor point in the movie, but overall we both loved it. And the of course everyone points out the no man's land sequence, and it was almost as thrilling the second time as the first time. And what I love about the sequence is that it does kind of come out of nowhere, because when they're in the trenches and Steve Trevor's like, the line hasn't moved in a year, Diana, this is not where we fight, this is not the fight we can win. Like, I thought it was going to kind of slowly go somewhere else, but instead Wonder Woman's just like, fuck that, and she just like pulls her hair down and just grabs her shield, and it's just like, oh shit, it's happening.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a scene where she has the painful realization about the reality of suffering in the world and how she can't save everyone, and she has to come to terms with this. Yeah, no, she's like, fuck that, I'm saving people right now, I'm getting out there. Yeah, that was a badass scene.
And since I was seeing it for the second time, like, the pacing leading up to that moment is so good, because it really does catch the audience by surprise. And I think my favorite moment of the whole movie is just when she jumps through the window, and then she just like jumps again and just knees the guy. Like, it's just like her forward movement is so brutal. She's like a wrecking ball.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to have any issues with killing people if she is certain that they're
in combat.
In combat, yeah.
In combat,
she doesn't mourn their deaths at any point in the movie.
No, you got to break a few eggs.
Yeah,
millions have already died,
I guess.
But yeah, Wonder Woman's a great movie, and I was really surprised. It's been like out for like nearly a month right now, and the theater was still pretty full on a freaking, what is this, Tuesday night,
5:20 was that?
Yeah,
it started at 5:20 p.m. and there were quite a few people in the theater. I was not expecting that many people to be there, just because of the day and time, and that the movie had been out for a while now.
And there was like all these like little girls like sitting in front of us, and they were like kind of cheering and laughing at like when Chris Pine was naked and stuff. And it's like, man, these little girls, like, this is their Star Wars, maybe. Like,
they were clearly enjoying the film throughout, and it was cool to get their perspective on it as well. I like that when you're with an audience that is appreciating the movie and it's actually a good movie. I've had too many experiences where, me being kind of the snobbish movie guy, have been at a movie and the audience is really into it, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't like this. Why are they cheering at this? That wasn't funny. This is dumb.
Even at like at a Transformers movie, there's just some guy like, yeah, that kicks ass.
These shouts of approval. It's some of the dumbest fucking shit ever in movies. It's just so discouraging. It's like, oh, dude, really? You thought that was bad? That was dumb as fuck, man.
Yeah, but seeing all these little kids who are like really excited to see Wonder Woman, and those kids sitting in front of us, like that was probably not their first time seeing it. They could,
You think?
yeah, they probably seen it like twice before or something.
I wouldn't make
And
that assumption,
yeah,
but
maybe.
who knows? Maybe they've seen it already.
But the good thing is that in 10 years, they'll probably still like this movie. When those kids grow up and go to college, and when they're 25 years old, they will probably still have Wonder Woman in their movie collection, unlike Ghostbusters 2016, which has already been completely forgotten.
It is.
And to all of us supposed people who hated Ghostbusters and were called sexist for it, like, we have been vindicated. Ghostbusters has just been swept away by history, and no one even remembers it. It's just crap.
Yeah. It's just being remembered as a strange historical artifact, one of these little moments in social history. But as far as like a film that's well regarded by anyone, no, it's never going to be that.
And it's kind of cool to think a year ago we were all being torn apart as a nation by the Ghostbusters controversy. Ghostbusters flopped. It lost the studio money. It turned feminists against men and men against feminists in this gendered war of, who's a misogynist and who's not. And now this summer, 1 year later, we are all coming together under the banner of Wonder Woman, and she is melting people's hearts.
It's a good thing.
Like, we just watched that.
In all seriousness, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
I'm glad that we have this counterbalance to the atrocity that was Ghostbusters 2016.
Like, just before this, we watched a review by Paul Zigo of the Drunken Peasants on his Cinema for Cynics channel, and I was kind of expecting him to harp on Wonder Woman. Instead, he's just like, yeah, it's kick-ass. I like it. It's good. Like, oh, wow. I didn't expect that.
I mean, even the filthy neckbeards can appreciate Wonder Woman.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I need some more coffee. I'm drinking coffee, and Midraspore is drinking Knob Creek fine bourbon, which is kind of a contrast here.
I don't know if I would call it fine bourbon. I don't think
What?
it calls itself fine bourbon. It is quality bourbon. It's not like, holy shit, the best bourbon ever. But it's good as far as
Yeah, we're not
it's
rich
a totally
people.
acceptable bourbon. Like I don't drink that much, so if I'm gonna drink, I want it to be at least as good as something like Knob Creek.
And I'm drinking some Folgers Instant out of an office mug that my mom gave me like 20 years ago. So, yeah, very different beverages here. Ah, Folgers. I grew up with it. It's so horrible, but so good.
Is it the instant Folgers? Or
Yes.
have you ever brewed a pot of coffee in your life? Like,
Oh, yeah, I bring brewed coffee to work
oh,
in the thermos, but like, it's
I
weird.
just remember you always making instant coffee. I had no memory from back in the day of you actually brewing up coffee. It was just pour the crystals in, and put the hot water in, and stir, and good to go.
My family were very poor, so we did not have the luxuries that most Americans enjoyed. But no, it's weird. Folgers Instant, if it's just normal, if you just have it black or with sugar, it's the most vile taste ever. But for some reason, if you add cream to it, it completely transmutes it and it becomes tasty. But I cannot drink it without milk in it, because then it's horrible. The cream just totally changes it.
Interesting.
I swear it's true.
Believe you.
So tasty. Oh man, what else is going on this vacation? This is dead air.
Well, yeah, dead
Dead air.
air, but I
Dead
mean,
air.
it's fine. We just cut it out. Like,
Yeah.
they don't, you know, if someone's listening up to this point, I'm not going to subject them to just
Are you still
pauses
listening?
of 4 seconds or longer.
Yeah, that's true.
It's plenty easy to just cut all that out, all this out, or leave it in as some amazing behind the scenes, peek at just two people talking in a room. Fascinating.
Yeah. Let's see. After Wonder Woman, though, like, I really hope Justice League doesn't let us down. Like, we saw the trailer before Wonder Woman, and it does seem.
I really don't think it's going to be anywhere nearly as good as Wonder Woman.
It looks like Batman and Superman on steroids.
Yeah. It looked very cartoony to me.
Massive dark battles with nameless demons.
I was not at all excited from that preview. I'm not going to prejudge it. Let's see what it is when it comes out. And if people say that it's actually really good, then maybe I'll see it. But I'm certainly not going to schedule my life around seeing this movie.
Like, I know I'm going to go see it, but I really do hope that after the success of Wonder Woman, that DC is frantically reshooting to, like, give Wonder Woman a bigger part.
No, that's a great point. That is a great point. And I did think of that before, like, this is the injection of life into the DC film series. And
DC,
now they're like, holy shit, we have actual quality on our hands. We can't fuck this up. Like, quick, we got to make it good. Or is it just these productions are such behemoths that it reaches a certain point and it's like, no, there's no saving it. Once it crosses a certain line, a certain amount of money has been spent, like, you can't just completely remake it. You're stuck. And if what you have is not good, you can't polish a turd that much.
Dude, they can. They can call Gal Gadot back and have her film 3 extra scenes that they shoehorn in, and
they just make her the star, and the rest of them, helping her. I would be much more interested in watching that movie.
Totally. They can change some of the music. Like, there'll be a part where the music is like overwhelmingly sorrowful, and they'll, like, put in some hopeful music, something like that. They can call Patty Jenkins up at all hours of the night and say, hey, what would you do here? Just bug her to death.
Yep. Well, I hope so. I hope that's how it goes. It just is crazy to me whenever I see, like, an image of the scheduled films for, like, Marvel Universe, and just how many years out they plan this shit. And that's what they're even revealing publicly. I mean, who knows how deep the calendar goes, in their secret meeting rooms and everything. Ugh.
Yeah, I guess the 2 Marvel movies next year are Black Panther and then the first Avengers Infinity War. It's weird to think that Avengers Infinity War is actually coming out. That was some endpoint that was just supposed to be far in the future and never actually arrive. But apparently it's happening.
Did the second Avengers movie make more or less money than the first one?
I think maybe a little less, but still a shitload of money.
And did it make more internationally? Or, where was the bulk of its success?
I'm not sure.
How come you don't have these statistics ready at hand in your brain at all times?
I don't know.
No, but
I'm not a numbers guy.
So it made, like, a ton of money, though, and yeah. I don't know. What I was getting at is I just have this sense that there is a decent chunk of the audience of these Marvel movies that is losing interest, and the further they go into all these weird storylines in the comics, the more viewers they're gonna just kind of fall off from it and be like, nah, I'm not gonna keep up with this anymore. It's just kind of getting a bit much.
Yeah, I was kind of at that place last year when Batman Superman came out and Civil War, and I didn't go see either of them in the theater. I was just like, fuck it. Although I did kind of warm up to Avengers 2. When we moved into this house, we didn't have cable for like a week and a half, and we were doing all this work, unpacking and stuff. So I'd just put Avengers 2 in the Blu-ray player and just have it on in the background while working and unpacking. And after just repeated exposure, it just kind of became lovable. Like, okay, fine, it's okay. Because the first time I saw it, I was like, lame.
The movies, the Marvel movies, the Avenger movies, they're just kind of getting mixed up in my mind where it's some of them I can remember as these distinct things, but then others I'm like, wait, was that scene in this one or that one? And I've only watched all of them once, except the first Iron Man. I really like that movie, and I've watched it probably like 3 times. But all the rest of them, and that since Iron Man, I've only ever watched them once.
Hmm. Man, I watched the first Iron Man like a lot of times.
Yeah, it's just one of the best origin story movies
When it
ever.
came out, it was,
Yeah.
and I should mention that I have like this job where people, not so much anymore, but we used to watch movies at my workplace.
Mhm.
And one time I was working with this old Spanish dude who he only spoke a little bit of English, but he was clearly more comfortable with Spanish. So we watched Iron Man with the Spanish subtitles on, and like Tony Stark speaking Spanish, like it makes sense. He's like, "Oh, sí, 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 ah, señora,
Well,
barbara." It was great.
I would expect the character of Tony Stark to be able to speak Spanish. I mean, that would be like a no-brainer for a genius of that level. It would be extremely practical to know Spanish.
Although, if you watch The Dark Knight with Spanish, with the Spanish language track on, the Joker speaking Spanish just never feels right.
Oh, I can imagine that.
The
I wouldn't be able to do that. That would be weird as hell.
the scene where Batman is roughing him up in the interrogation room, they're just going back and forth, and Batman is like, "Tu es basura," and the Joker's like, "Oh no 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 no, Batman, mi amore, tu complete me," and it's like
Oh, shit.
it comes
No.
off as extreme. I mean, I'm not saying that anything in Spanish is automatically humorous, but sometimes it is.
And also the effect that you get when you don't understand the language and you just know that is Spanish, but beyond that, it's just sounds.
And you know, there'll be a few words here and there that you pick up, like
Mhm.
amigo and
Yeah.
bueno.
Yeah, I know a tiny bit of Spanish. I took Spanish in high school. I didn't study a great deal, but like if I'm around two people that are speaking Spanish, I will comprehend like 5 to 10% of what is being said, but I can't really speak any of it.
Yeah, me neither. Oh man, Spanish. Okay, what are we talking about next? Another movie we watched last night was Get Out, the the African American horror movie by Jordan Peele. That movie kicks ass.
Highly recommended.
So
Highly
creepy.
recommended. And I think if anybody is listening to this still and you have not seen Get Out, then you should skip ahead and not listen to us talk about the movie. You should just go watch the movie. Because this
Yes.
is definitely a movie that it would suck to have it spoiled. Like, yeah, that would ruin a lot of the fun of it. But I watched it for the second time last night, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it a second time. And I don't watch a lot of movies twice, so I mean, at least for me, that says something about the quality of the movie. It actually it was interesting. So I mean, here getting into spoiler territory now at some point. It was interesting watching it a second time, knowing what everything, what was actually going on the whole time, and knowing how certain characters, like the family, when they were talking to each other, that what they were communicating to each other was different than the literal meaning of the words that they were saying. I mean, because they couldn't literally say what they wanted to because he was present there listening to conversations, but they could still, communicate what they were actually thinking. And you pick up on those sorts of things when
Damn, no, I want to see it a
time.
second time.
Yeah.
And
The first time I watched it, the moment that I knew that I was like, I really liked this movie was that scene when he goes outside and what was the character's name? The gardener charges at him.
Walter?
Was it? I don't know. I'm bad at remembering character
Walter
names.
and Georgina.
Yeah, Georgina and Walter. Okay, that's probably right.
Him charging at the camera.
But he goes out to just have a smoke, and then just it's so menacing, that charge, and then diverts right at the last second, and he's just left like anybody would be like, okay, that was extremely hostile, like sprinting at me at full speed and then just diverting like a couple feet away. Incredibly hostile thing to do, and not say a word. Like you don't, no explanation, no nothing. You're this really large, scary man sprinting at someone, and then you just divert right at the last second and just off into the shadows. And you're out there like, wow, that was, dude, your adrenaline would be through the roof in that, because you would have been just in that moment of like preparing to have to fight, and then, oh, I'm not fighting, but wow, you'd be fucking freaked out. No, but like, and then that actually was not the scene that made me think, oh, this movie is awesome. It was right after that when he goes back inside and encounters the mother and the hypnosis occurs. The way that was shot, just the concept of it, I loved it. I loved how, he becomes helpless to her commands, and when she tells him to sink,
go to the sunken place. Yeah. And
what a nightmarish concept, that place.
And like Jordan Peele is obviously a really good director, because it was almost reminded me of like fucking David Lynch, the way he could just film a normal person in a normal setting and just through their facial expressions and their movements have it just be completely eerie and off-putting.
Yeah.
And like that, I wasn't expecting that level of just weird awesomeness in the movie.
Yeah.
But because the trailer almost made it look like a comedy.
Yeah, the trailer does make it look like things other than it is. And in the trailer, you do have the shot of him there with where he's frozen and the tears are falling down his face. And I remember thinking, well, that's visually interesting, and I wonder what he's so upset about. But when you watch the movie and then that it's like his mind has fallen back into this abyss, and it's reaching out from this deep pit. But then on the surface, that's resulting in these tears falling. But he's incapable of any control of his body. It's just these autonomic responses to his incredibly intense emotions and everything. Wow.
Yeah. And you may have noticed that we're not talking about the supposed racial politics of the movie. And it's probably because we're both white and neither of us are like social justice warriors. So we don't even hardly care about that angle. We just like it as a horror movie.
Yeah, I just appreciate it from a craft perspective, just the way it was made and shot and acted, and it's just the way it was constructed. It's extremely well produced, and it's a blast to watch. It's a fun ride.
And the whole time, I was just vaguely aware of what I had read beforehand, that the reason people love this movie, Get Out, so much is because they say, oh my God, I never realized that's how white people come off to black people, as smug and condescending. And white people say these things that are offensive, but we don't realize it.
No,
Yeah, I guess. But
I felt that the movie was poking fun at the idea that white people are supremely lame. That was just such an exaggeration of the stereotype of all these super fucking lame white people gatherings where everyone is totally false and,
I'm voting for Obama.
Yeah. We're all very rich, and after this get together, we're going to go home and enjoy our rich lives where we talk very strangely and do stupid white things.
Yeah.
It's like, no, obviously Peele and everyone, the creative team in this involved in this knows that that's not like, oh yeah, that's what all white people are like. They're just fucking lame and evil.
I think it really resonates more among people who actually grew up in like rich liberal families. I grew up in a poor white trash family, and I've been surrounded by white trash my whole life.
Oh, thanks.
Well, except for you, you're the one person from like the big city that I know. But no, down here in Tennessee,
just messing.
Down here in Tennessee, there's, open racists pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
At my job, the supervisor showed up one day that I'd never even, I met him once before. And within 30 minutes of conversation, he's just like, yup, I like to shoot guns. I wish I could put up a sniper nest on top of the Bell South building and kill a bunch of thugs. Just all this weird racist diatribe shit.
Well, when he says that, I mean, did he ever explicitly say that he wanted to snipe black people, or was it just implied, with the thug talk and everything?
Yeah, it was implied. He also said that he told a story that once he went into a Crystal's and a bunch of gay people were there, and they were wearing outrageous costumes, like they came from a pride parade. And he said, it should be legal for me to kill these people because they invaded my personal space. And keep in mind, this man is very old. He's very feeble.
Yeah.
Very, very, very skinny, probably weighs 120 pounds. And he just wants to feel powerful by killing gays and black people. But yeah, my point is, down here in the South, where you can hear just openly racist shit from anywhere at any time, but the rich liberals, like, it's not as offensive to me.
I mean, dude, I lived down here maybe is it just where we lived?
Yeah, we were in college.
Yes, and a college town. You're like, no, dude. If you were out in the right areas, you would hear these things. Because but I mean, of course, I was only hanging out with other college students at that time. It wasn't like we were chumming around with good old boys.
Yeah, but the good old boys are here, and you'll just hear people say like, "Yo, yeah, black people ruining America, man. I don't like them here. I just, blah 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 blah."
I've never experienced that before.
Boy, I have.
Yeah, never. I mean, yeah, I've known maybe a couple people that I could say were pretty racist, said some foul shit in that way, but as far as it being something that was commonly encountered, no, never.
Yeah, I worked like a real blue collar job, and there's a lot of it. Like when I first started there was this one supervisor. He was just open about it. He just wanted all the young black people fired. He was on a mission to just get each and every one of them fired in a systematic manner. Turns out he got fired, so happy ending. But anyway, yeah, Get Out. That's right.
Okay, well, let's stop talking about depressing real world racists, and let's talk about fun shit like these really well done movies like Get Out.
The absolute best, the thing about Get Out that I liked the most was the way the majority of it was played very kind of straight and serious, like a horror movie. But whenever Chris would call his best friend Rod, Rod was in a comedy movie.
Yep.
The way he spoke was just completely different from everything else. And that was, it was a horror movie calling a comedy, and the contrast was so hilarious.
It made the film much better overall. It definitely needed those moments of levity to balance against the horror of what was actually going on at the house with the family and all that. If it just been that, it would have been maybe just too much of a downer, you know?
It would have been horrible if he called his friend Rod and Rod was just serious and saying, "What? There's danger? I'll come get you. Call the police. This is a serious situation." Instead, he's just like, "No, man, no, let me tell you this shit, man, blah, 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 blah."
But he's smart and he catches on pretty quick once he starts to get some evidence of, you know, and that photograph of the one guy that I guess was like a casual acquaintance of them, that, you know, that was the point where he's just like, "Oh, hell no, I know some fucking bullshit's going down here."
And the scene where he goes to the police and tells them his theory.
That was a great scene.
And they crack up laughing.
No, but
that was great.
Like, the female detective just plays it totally straight-faced, and so that she can call her friends in and treat them to this scene of this, you know, lunatic telling this ridiculous story about Black people being kidnapped and turned into sex slaves
or sex slaves. But then, of course,
Be right back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Midraspore is leaving the room briefly. Let's see. Yeah. And then at the end of the movie, Rod, he has the last line of the movie, and it's just the most badass thing ever. You know, he says, "We're the TS motherfucking A. We handle shit. Consider this shit handled." That was such a great ending, such a great final line. And a great shout out to all the TSA agents out there, because they do detective shit sometimes more than detectives do. For real.
yeah. He's in that one scene. He's like, "You know, I don't mean to talk down to you, but, you know, we do detective shit. You know, terrorist shit. Yeah, like we do terrorism shit. You know." Oh yeah, but you were saying about the last line in the movie just being great, and that made me think about when I watched this the first time. I watched it on Amazon Video, and they had the alternate ending after the end credits that they had actually shot, you know. Mm-hmm. So super spoilers here, right? You haven't seen the movie, but and this alternate ending where they shot the police, that car shows up and it's not his friend, it's the police, and they just take him away, and the next scene is him in jail talking to Rod, and you know, we assume he's in there for life, but they have this emotional scene talking through the glass in prison, and then Jordan gets on the mic and talks about like how that was the originally intended ending, but given like the situation of 2016 and how you know, he doesn't think that we're actually in a post-racial country, that he needed that cathartic. He and his partner realized they needed the cathartic ending instead of the really grim.
I'm so glad they went with that ending, because that original depressing ending would have I wouldn't have liked it. Besides, Key and Peele already did that ending in a classic Key and Peele sketch called Negro Town. And once you've done Negro Town, you don't want to repeat that success. If you haven't seen it, just go to YouTube and search for Key and Peele Negro Town. It's worth watching again and again.
Funny. It is funny.
I just wanted to say Negro Town a lot.
You know what? Maybe my favorite, I don't know if I have a favorite Key and Peele bit, but it's the one where it's like they're on some exercise show, you know, where they're doing like aerobic exercise, and it's like, I guess it's like in the 90s because it's being shot on video, and they're all dressed up like those 80s or early 90s aerobic stars,
mm-hmm.
you know. And then Ron Howard's brother, what's that guy's name? Clint Howard is in that bit, and he's like flashing these cards about how one of the guys Keegan's wife was involved in some accident, and like he believes there was foul play, but like don't stop dancing, don't stop dancing. That was one of the first ones that I saw, and I was like, oh wow, this show is pretty brilliant. I think I'm gonna watch some more of this show.
I never saw that sketch, and until just
really?
now. And
Shit, well, we got to watch that.
Okay.
We'll watch that in a bit.
Furthermore, until just a minute ago, I had no idea that Ron Howard has a brother named Clint Howard.
Really?
Yes.
But Clint Howard has been in so many
I have
movies,
no knowledge
movies.
of Cliff Howard.
Clint
Howard.
Yeah.
I have no knowledge of this man.
Well,
I can't be everywhere at once.
You do have knowledge of him. You just don't remember who he is.
By the end of this night, I will have read his Wikipedia entry, and I will be fully immersed in the public knowledge of Cliff Howard. Clint Howard.
To my knowledge, the first appearance in entertainment and television, in this case for Clint Howard, was in Star Trek: The Original Series. You remember? I'm bad at remembering the names of these episodes, but it's the one where they encounter the alien ship that's just matching them no matter what they do. It just keeps pace. And then it turns out like it's being operated by this little child.
Oh, the Corbomite maneuver?
Yeah. Yeah.
The midget guy.
That is Clint Howard as a little kid.
Oh, shit.
I mean, he's not a midget. He's just a weird looking person.
I thought he was a midget because they dubbed the crazy voiceover.
Yeah.
Him.
Well, yeah, it's obviously not Clint Howard's voice. It's whoever the voice actor was.
That was the most disturbing shit.
But that's Clint is a little critter.
Yeah. The one crew member who was a bigot or what have you. He decided to.
Oh, I'm going to remain here with this freaky ass whatever this guy is, and for how long I don't know. It's just this is my life now. It's absolute nightmare. Yeah, that
would be horrible.
There's some. When I was a kid, they used to play Star Trek: The Original Series like after school. Like in the late afternoon, I think like after some of the cartoons would play, then they'd play some original series.
Oh yeah,
episodes. And I mean, I didn't watch it like a ton. I was tuned in for the cartoons, but I do remember just sticking around and watching some or all of some of the original series. And of course, I've since watched all of the episodes. But anyways, my point is like I remember being pretty freaked out by that show. Often as a kid, there's some scary concepts in that show.
Yeah, some of the creatures were. I always found that creatures in old movies are freakier because they look so crude and so fake. It's just sort of a nauseating, fake reality.
What is that effect? That it like if the makeup was more realistic, it would be far less disturbing.
Yeah, if it was totally realistic, it'd be like seeing, a tiger or something. But something that's obviously this rubber monstrosity, everything moving stiffly and just seeming wrong and nightmarish. Yeah.
And the colors in Star Trek: The Original Series, the colors were very vivid and they just used all of them, it seemed. Something about that creates a dreamlike quality. Doesn't feel real. Feels like a dream.
Hey, is this thing still recording? Because I'm not seeing any motion on the screen.
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay,
what
sweet.
motion were you looking for?
I don't know. I thought I'd see like a little waveform bouncing up and down.
No. I mean, yeah, you see this. This is the time in bars and beats and shit going on.
Okay.
So it's still going. Yeah.
That reminds me, that new Star Trek series coming out, Discovery. I think in the preview they say 10 years before Kirk and Spock and the Enterprise, there was the Discovery. And I really wish that Star Trek Discovery was not taking place during that same era, because to compare the two, Discovery, which will have these cutting edge special
Yeah.
effects and look very realistic, and say that's at the same time as the old series. Yeah, it's just kind of a weird disconnect.
Well, Star Trek has always suffered from that problem. You go back and watch the original series, and it doesn't make sense if you scrutinize their computer interfaces. It's like, no, obviously like what we have today is far superior to anything that you see in that show.
Yeah, and not just that, but in Star Trek, the original series, there were so many bizarre, colorful, really way out there concepts and creatures. They were always going back in time or to a gangster planet or to
Oh yeah,
a cowboy planet. And
that's the 60s right there for you.
Kirk and Spock never seemed like they were part of the beginning of a federation stretching out to the stars with deep political significance and serious wars and struggles between the various worlds throughout the galaxy. It was like, no, they're fighting giant lizards and hanging with space hippies and being transported to some alternate reality.
And dealing with these impossible creatures like some giant amoeba floating in space. Like, you would just, that shit would be weird if it was like that on Discovery, if any of these sorts of things we're talking about, where they like, let's go down to this planet and pretend to be Nazis. It's like, you're not going to make that episode.
They just doesn't add up. They need to get away from the Kirk Spock era. Discovery should have been like 1,000 years after Deep Space Nine. Just give us something new. I wonder if there'll be any little Easter egg references in Discovery. Just something minor, like at the end, something like she came very highly recommended by Captain Kirk. She's a superior officer. Just like, will they say Kirk's name or the Enterprise at any point? I hope they don't.
He probably will.
Yeah. You know what movie I found was kind of disappointing? John Wick 2.
I was wondering about that one. I almost redboxed it the other day, and then I was like, no, I don't have the time to watch a movie. I'll see it, when I get back from vacation. But it's not nearly as good as the first. Is that your assessment?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing overtly wrong with it, except for, well, I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers, because I am going to eventually see it, I guess. But now I'm certainly not as motivated to go see it because you turned me off from it a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. I'm glad to know that it's kind of meh.
I really want to root for the John Wick movies because everyone loves Keanu Reeves and he's a great guy and he does all this training, and I'm glad he's still a superstar. In the first John Wick movie was like a real nice surprise.
Yeah.
And in the second one, it's being in a world where every person is like an assassin. Like, it almost seems at some point near the end of the movie that there's more assassins in real life than non-assassins. Like, this is kind of a spoiler, but there's a part where a contract goes out, like, kill this person and you'll get $7 million.
Just how many assassins descend on this one opportunity? Just
in one city, all these people, like every person on every street corner picks up their phone and is like, oh, $7 million. I'm going to get that. And the assassins come in it's like all different. They're not just like, muscular men. There's like all these female assassins and like nerd assassins and old elderly assassins. And
what the fuck?
One of them, I shit you not, is like this huge Japanese sumo wrestler, like wearing a suit. And he just runs out and attacks John Wick, just like, just knocks him back. And John Wick's just being attacked by a fucking sumo wrestler. It's like, oh.
That sounds a little ridiculous.
Too many assassins.
I did think, when I watched the first one, I was like, really? There are this many hitmen and they have this secret club, this weird hotel you can go to where they'll just cater to all your hitman needs, no questions asked, assuming you have enough money to be there.
But in John Wick 2, it's like that is like all over the world. They have all these specialized shops. And if you lived in the John Wick world, like if you met a girl and took her out on a date, you would have to ask her, like, hey, you're not an assassin, are you? Because I've dated two assassins previously, and I don't want to get into that again.
It's like most of the women that approach me. Oh shit!
Oh,
my
sorry.
phone just fell. Most of the women that approach me are assassins. Because like I'm this intimidating guy strolling around, and then like the only ones that come up to talk to me are actually secretly trying to kill me.
In John Wick 2, in that world, that would be a legitimate concern. There's just so many assassins. You get the feeling that in that world, Donald Trump would have been assassinated like 5 months ago, because in John Wick world, assassination is just the go-to solution for most problems.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that the movie has too many assassins.
All right.
Other than that, I won't spoil it for you. And kind of the ending just kind of comes out of nowhere. The one of my pet peeves in movies is when the big climactic action happens and I'm left thinking, is that it? Is someone else going to come out? Like, does that settle it? I should know at that point if it's the ending.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it does clearly set up for a John Wick 3, which apparently they're making. I expect to have... I will be disappointed in John Wick 3 if there's not 5-year-old, 10-year-old assassins. Because like I said, everyone in this world is an assassin. John Wick, he'll be at a street corner running for his life, and some little 10-year-old kid, like a 10-year-old girl with a lollipop, will walk up, and then she'll pull the top off the lollipop, and it'll be like a dagger underneath. She'll start stabbing him in the thigh, and he'll have to kill her because she's a 10-year-old assassin. That now seems not just likely, but inevitable.
Yeah.
After John Wick 2. Oh, fuck. I don't know. Do you think we've talked long enough?
Yeah, we've talked long enough, and we could talk more if we got anything to talk about.
We've been sitting here for like an hour. I feel like we're obligated to just keep talking about movies, because it would be strange if we suddenly switched topics and started talking about politics.
Well, I was having the thought earlier while you were talking about John Wick 2 and the madness of the assassins. This society of nothing but assassins. I was thinking we should just break it up into multiple uploads. Like at this point, it's going to be so long. I don't know. It's going to be multiple hours.
Dang.
I mean, who's going to sit and listen for multiple hours? Unless they pause and pick it up later.
Yeah, some podcasts are pretty long.
Yeah. There are, yeah, I mean, sure. We know of some that are consistently like 2.5 or 3 hours. But this is the first time we've done this shit. And it's not like we have a large audience that's going to want to.
Sadly, no.
Yeah, large audience that wants to stick through it.
If you're still hearing this, you are part of a very exclusive club. You know, earlier I just read that Power Rangers might be getting a sequel because the merchandising sales were very strong. I just want to say, yay, consumerism, because I liked Power Rangers way more than I thought I would. And it definitely deserves at least 5 sequels.
I don't think it's going to get 5 sequels. Seems very unlikely. One sequel, maybe.
Power Rangers was the Batman Begins. The next one will be like the Dark Knight of the Power Rangers universe.
Yeah. No.
No, man, the Green Ranger, he will just take it to a whole new level.
Well, they certainly hint at the Green Ranger is coming in the next movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. That movie made me think about the movie Chronicle, about just the idea of these kids discovering something that makes them super powerful. But whereas Chronicle goes in the direction of like it all goes bad and it's just the tragedy, this one is like, no, this is a great thing that they were hit with whatever energy comes out of these crystals and turns them into superheroes.
It's almost all upside.
Yeah, it pretty much. Yeah, I liked Chronicle though. That was a fun movie.
I love that movie. Probably the best found footage movie I've ever seen, and I honestly haven't seen many. That's kind of a genre I tend to avoid.
It did a good job of keeping it plausible that the footage you're watching was actually shot.
Maybe
at a
not
certain
at the
point, end. Yeah. At the end, it's like too many people just calmly standing there with their cell phone cameras capturing really great shots of the action. It's like, no, I think most people will probably be fucking shitting themselves underneath their desks, like quivering, hoping not to be killed, not being too worried about filming that insanity.
Man, Chronicle.
There needs to be more. They need to make another movie that explores the concept of ordinary people acquiring telekinetic power.
Yes.
I don't think Chronicle explored all of what you can do with that concept. There's a lot you could do with that would be really interesting. It doesn't even have to get into like totally sick shit. Just, like there needs to be another.
I feel like I have to mention Patrick Stewart's idea of having that movie about someone who had Professor X's powers in real life. And all he does is, make women's clothes fall off. He's just like, he sees an attractive woman, is like, whoop, there go her clothes.
You could make an entire movie about some pervert that acquires this power and just uses it to do horrible things. I mean, but like, what would be you'd have to be done with such a delicate touch because it could be so easily offensive,
Oh man, that'd be like not make it a comedy, but
right. There had to be some balance, though. You could
like Get Out. It would be like a horrifying premise that had sort of just some comedic elements. Just this real scumbag who gets telekinetic powers. He's like, I'm gonna fuck with everyone. I don't give a shit. I'm an asshole. I'm gonna show the world who's boss. Boy, that reminded me of something completely off topic. Remember that show Heroes, the superhero show?
I've never watched an episode of it, but I remember it.
Everyone knows that the first season was really great, and then after that, it just completely turned into crap.
Okay.
And the third season was the most horrendously mishmashed, god-awful mess of a TV show that I've ever seen in my life. It was just a bunch of ideas in a blender. And when I was watching it with this friend at work. And every once in a while, the show would come up with a really cool concept. One of the characters, Matt Parkman, he's kind of a schlubby cop, and he develops telekinetic powers. And he doesn't really know how to use them very well. He can read minds and, force people to do a few things. And then in the third season, you find out that his father, whose name I believe was Maury Parkman, his father apparently had the same power, but it was much greater. And it was genuinely cool in the show that these villains were attacking Matt. And when they found out that his last name was Parkman, they were immediately filled with terror. They would say, "Oh, what? You're Maury Parkman's kid? Don't tell your dad about this. Please, God, I'll do anything. Just, your father's a monster. You have no idea." And you're like, oh man, I'm curious now. What is Parkman's father like? He's this tremendously feared character. And the twist, which was even better, when you finally meet Maury Parkman, he's just this fat, bald guy in a rundown apartment, sitting around in his underwear in a bathrobe. And he's completely just, he's just completely miserable. And he has kind of a speech where he says he could go do anything. He could make any woman fall in love with him. He could walk into a mansion and make the owners think it's his. He could do anything because his powers are so great. but it's left him completely soulless because it's just
Yeah,
no one can be close to him.
I could imagine how having that power and exercising it in the way that a character like that would just take away every bit of your humanity and turn you into a desolate thing.
And the worst thing though is they display when some of the good guys go to confront him, he just with no effort, he just traps them in this world of infinite nightmares, and he just walks away unharmed because any kind of threat to him is like nothing. He can just wink at you and just take you out of the game. You're on the floor, just trapped in your own brain forever. And I was like, man, this is a great villain. Like, this guy should be the main villain of the series.
Yeah.
He can go anywhere, do anything. And then just out of nowhere, the main villain, who's played by Robert Forster,
Okay.
just out of nowhere, he says, you're no longer any use to me, Maury, and just kills him. And I was like, what? You just squandered some great shit there. Who made that decision? It's just...
So did that all happen in season 1 of the show?
Season 3.
Season 3. But you said that the show really went downhill after season 1. Is that accurate? Or
Oh,
no?
yeah. Season 2 was like a victim of the writer's strike.
Okay.
And it was extremely bad.
This character, the one with the telekinetic powers, and when was he established? In season 1? Does he exist for multiple seasons, or was this all in season 3?
All in season 3, but season 3 was some sort of super long, like it had like twice as many episodes because they were trying to recover from the shortened season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So they just it was like freaking 25, 30 episodes long. And it felt like 3 different seasons just jammed together.
It's always weird to me when a television show varies greatly in the number of episodes per season, where you have like season 1, 10, and then season 2 is like 26. Like, what?
And Heroes was a nightmare to watch for someone like me because I like to think I have a pretty good memory and I'm really good at remembering characters and where they're at. And in season 2 of Heroes, the character Peter, he has an Irish girlfriend named Caitlin, and they're briefly transported into a dystopian future where a plague has ravaged mankind and the governments are cracking down. Everything is centered around the plague. And Peter is separated from his girlfriend, Caitlin. Some men take her away and he says, "No, Caitlin." And then he gets sent back to the present. And then they forget to follow up on that story thread. And Caitlin is apparently trapped in a future that never occurs. Nice. And everyone forgets about her. So what happens if you prevent the bad future from happening, but your girlfriend is stuck there? Does she just vanish, or does she just live forever in Plaguesville? And that was kind of the experience of Heroes. It was just, wait, aren't you going to get back to that thing that totally seemed important? No? Oh, okay. Oh, God. Like Lost and Heroes were so weird because they were kind of in the pre-peak TV era where they were still just kind of not planning everything out, just throwing stuff against the walls.
So they're just winging it.
Yep.
Hope this works out. Let's hope it's good. Oh, it's good, but shit, we really didn't plan what to do after this point. So, ideas, anybody? Ideas? Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of peak TV, we have been so busy lately. Twin Peaks has returned after 25 years, and I haven't even had time to watch it yet. Man, I can't wait.
That's something I'm going to watch when I get back from vacation.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Twin Peaks, it's one of the greatest things ever, and you should watch it. And if you're thinking, well, it's kind of old, is it still good? Yes, it is.
And I can vouch for that because I never watched it. I didn't watch it when it first came out. Didn't watch it at any point in the intervening years. Just like a couple weeks ago, I watched seasons 1 and 2 of Twin Peaks, and I was like, wow, yeah, this is a special thing. I'm glad I watched it. And it is crazy to think that it just ended there where it ends at season 2, and decades go by where there's just all these unanswered questions. Wow.
Oh man, I can't wait.
Yeah. But I have no idea how it's resolved in the new episodes. I
Nobody
purposefully
does.
Oh, well,
They're not all out yet.
Well, no, but I mean, I'm saying like I purposefully have avoided any information about the return because I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want to know people's opinions. I mean, I have, of course, heard people saying that it's really good, but I'm like, okay, that I don't want to know anymore.
All we know is that all the characters are older and some of them have died.
Well, some of the actors have died, and some of those actors died quite a while ago.
Yeah. And the guy who played Sheriff Truman, Harry something Keen, he is retired and living in Hawaii, and he said no thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, that's a bummer. I kind of wish I didn't know that. I was assuming he was going to be in it. He was such an important character in the
I heard that
series.
They replaced him with Robert Forster, who was David Lynch's original choice to play Sheriff Harry Truman. So
did Robert Forster have any role in the original series? Didn't he have some like guest role or
not that I'm aware of? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's been a few years since I've seen it.
For some reason, I'm thinking he had some minor role, but maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly.
You're too drunk. Too much bourbon.
I'm not drunk. I would be having a difficult time remembering that.
What was that substance you took earlier? I saw you, before we went to see Wonder Woman, I saw you ingest a substance from a mysterious vial.
It was one of those things where you like snap them open and this gas comes out and you sniff it, and then like you can see like this glowing energy underneath your skin. And
it was a liquid.
Like, punch through fucking walls and crumple metal with your bare hands. It's awesome.
So you obtained steroid cream earlier today, some sort of super steroid cream.
Right.
How many things are you on, man?
All the things.
Yes.
All the things. The ones that make you powerful.
I am only on Folgers Instant. And
exciting.
I think I got to urinate now, so I think this might be a good point to wrap it up. We've been talking for...
Well, I could get a longer mic cable. You could carry the microphone with you into the bathroom and just continue talking while urinating. We can hear that whole experience of the door opening and urinating and the toilet flushing and the door closing and the... No.
I don't think I could go if I knew people were listening.
If you knew there was like a microphone just right there.
Yeah. Funny story. I used to have a bashful bladder as a kid because in 7th and 8th grade, if you went into the boys' room, you'd like get the shit knocked out of you and hassled by bullies who just always seemed to be in the bathroom. And that gave me a bashful bladder.
Man, that's so cool. Those guys were so cool. Like, that's the coolest place I can think of to hang out, a bathroom. I love just chilling in the bathroom, you know, with like the shit smell still lingering and like people in there fucking pissing and defecating. Like, that's just a cool place to be.
They were always in there.
Yeah, man.
In 8th grade, during lunch, I would sneak out of the lunchroom and run to the restroom because that was the only time no one was in there. And I would like, that'd be the only time I'd take a leak during the day. I was kind of a troubled kid.
Anyways, yeah, sure. Sounds like a good spot to stop it, and then we can pick it up in a minute or in a day or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But hey, yeah, it was fun chatting with everybody. Anybody that's still hanging out there listening.
Go see Twin Peaks. Go see Twin Peaks now.
Yeah, go see Wonder Woman if you haven't seen it.
Oh, yeah. We started this by talking about Wonder Woman, didn't we?
Hmm?
Dude, that was weeks ago. Feels like it.
Peace.
Peace.